Welcome, Roast Nation. Chris Cordani here with Angie, Wong. We're here for another edition of Prime Roast.
Yeah, welcome back, Prime Roasters. We got a very special guest with us, someone who's invited me onto his show before, and everyone should know Dr. Steve Turley, the internationally recognized scholar, speaker, and I'm going to say it, classic guitarist.
Although classic guitarist.
Wait, but there's more to his bio. I got to finish it up. He was kind enough to give me a copy of his book, Fight, How Trump and the MAGA Movement Are Changing the World, which he wrote right before the election, you guys. And he kind of predicted a lot of stuff in that book. So I think he might be Nostradamus as well in disguise. And he also has a great podcast, Turley Talks. So do check him out. But welcome to the show, Dr. Turley.
Thanks, Angie. Thanks, Chris. Great to be with you guys.
Oh, it's great to have you here. A longtime fan of your channel, by the way. Always loved the way you delivered everything, and you're, and the beard. The beard is darn cool. That's probably where all the millennials get the idea of a good, clean beard. That's the one thing I can hand to them. I know they like their participation trophies, but at least they know how to comb their beards.
It's my contribution to the manosphere, I think.
All right, guys. Is the beard here to stay in politics? Every young Republican has a beard. Is that it? Is that like the Abe Lincoln thing, or like are we like shifting to like bow ties again?
Ooh, I wore a bow tie for 20 years in academia too. Yeah.
Really?
You know, there is something scholars call it remythologization. It's an actual field of study where when societies go through very tumultuous periods of time where it looks like we're going to lose our culture, we're going to lose the things that we love, all of a sudden out of nowhere, the old ancient myths that all our great fables and stories, Lord of the Rings and so forth, they all come back. They all have a comeback during that time. And it does. It looks like J.D. Vance in particular, but I mean, you go all around, Jordan Peterson, of course, there is a sort of renewal of manhood and classical manhood, you know, like St. George slaying the dragon to save the bride, as it were. Again, it's a Christ motif ultimately, and I think it's on its way back. When Trump walks into the UFC arenas, I mean, he looks like a conquering Caesar coming into the Colosseum. I mean, you know, it's just, you can't make this stuff up, and it's all converging. Yeah, I think help reawaken classical society again. That's always good and healthy for faith, family, and freedom.
Well, here's some beard trivia for both of you. In fact, you know the band ZZ Top. We'd like to see more of those ZZ Top beards. The funny thing is, though, the only guy without a beard is the drummer. His last name is Beard.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Great irony. Yeah.
Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Mr. Beard.
Mr. Beard.
That's the truth right there.
Dusty unfortunately left us a couple of years ago.
Yes,
he passed
unfortunately.
away. So.
Great band, by the way.
They are
did go
amazing
pop a
band.
little bit, but they still didn't lose their rock roots. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun today, because you might remember last week when we discussed let's just say watched this hellacious but hilarious video called "Choose Your Fighter," where we had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and an assortment of crazy liberal women try to act like video game fighters, except for this one who acted like she was going to the bathroom, which was absolutely, I mean, this is atrocious. My favorite, though, is still the boxer, Stacey
Which
Crockett.
One's the boxer?
Jasmine
Oh, yeah.
Crockett.
What's her name? What's that woman's
Crockett.
name?
This one, the boxer, is Susie Lee. See, she's tough because she can punch you. That's it. She didn't do wax on, wax off like the others.
Insane.
I have a video that's actually worse than this. I know people could challenge me to say, hey, there's no way you can find a worse video than this one. Well, there is. And it's really embarrassing. You guys might remember Rosa DeLauro. You know Rosa DeLauro, the congresswoman out of Connecticut.
I'm from Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. She was a congresswoman when I was growing up there.
Wow. Oh man, that's your representative. Oh,
it was. I've upgraded to Delaware.
Upgraded? I don't know. Well, I've been in New York all my life. My congressman growing up was always Ben Gilman. He was there forever. So good man. This is Rosa DeLauro. Now, I understand that it's a good idea for politicians to try to speak to young people using TikTok. But please, if you're 809 years old like her, then please try not to use Generation Alpha and Generation Z slang. Check this out.
Yo, this is the ranking Rizzler on appropriation.
First off, the ranking Rizzler.
Yo, yo, MTV.
And with her purple hair, I mean, she's like you said, she's 120 years old. I mean, come on.
Is she wearing pleather? She's wearing pleather, isn't she?
Isn't that hip though? And all the rings there. This way she can fend off muggers, I guess, with those brass knuckles.
And of course, she has to hold her microphone. Notice they all hold it because that's cool.
Is it? Should I hold my mic? Should I get
Yeah,
closer?
it's kind of, it's like almost like a cigarette or something in the hand. I don't know what it is, but
it's a Zippo lighter. There we go. All right, here's some more fun from Rosa Delorio. The ranking Rizzler, by the way. I don't even know half this slang, but please.
Serving Connecticut's 3rd District. It's time to enter your dark academia Congress era. All right, besties.
Besties. All right, besties. Do kids even still use that term? They say, I think that one,
as a symbol of derision, maybe.
House appropriation is the money moves in Congress.
It's
We are not chasing the bag. We are the bag.
Well, she's right there. She is a bag.
Yeah. We are the bag.
Democrats are making life smoother through government funding. It's giving skibbity.
Giving skibbity. What the heck is that, you might ask? I actually had to look that up a while ago because I'm not hip. I learned, look, I know that the kids say stuff like keen and groovy and stuff like that these days. And I believe they also say things are spank when they're cool, right? I think that's what the kids say now, spank. But the skibbity, I believe this has something to do with toilet bowls. Apparently, according to, you've seen this, Dr. Turley, right? Or you've heard of this? Angie?
You're traumatizing me by the second here. I'm gonna have to call a therapist. I'm gonna charge you guys for the therapist bills after this.
Apparently, when you hear these kids say skibbity, it has to do with this cartoon on YouTube done by some European guy, I believe. It has these heads doing scat from the 40s out of toilets.
I believe it. Yeah.
So I guess she gives a lot of skibbity because a lot of the stuff she says pretty much belongs in a toilet.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So Sigma, main character energy. But Republicans' Project 2025 is mad sus.
Does she actually look hip saying this, Angie?
She is using terminology that my 9-year-old would be using, except she's ancient. She's trying to be like the cool grandma, which is like way off, right? I get it. The Democrats are losing the young base. They've like Gen Z has gone to the right. They don't know how to call them back. They can't play enough video games with them to get them back. So now they're going to try to sound like cool grandma to entice 9-year-olds. Oh yeah, that's really working. I wonder if the Sergeant of Arms understands that all these congressional members are making TikTok videos and showing sacred places of the Capitol that, well, maybe we should know about. I mean, maybe we're giving up some like national security stuff in her videos.
Again, cool grandmas back in the day were the ones that gave us all cookies when we were playing baseball outside. They didn't try to say cool stuff like we did. They didn't say things were tubular or anything like that.
It reminds me of when you're talking to somebody who's just learning a language and they're really bad at it. And it's just very frustrating to listen to. I've been in that situation. My wife is from Japan. So I've tried to learn Japanese, and I've been in situations where I was practicing my Japanese, and the other person just looked at me and said, "Look, I speak English. It's okay. Just stop."
Yo hablo español.
Yeah, right. It's cringe to listen to somebody just, she sounds like she's just learning the violin and just squeaking on the thing. It's horrible.
Eliminating the Department of Education? Negative for a point. Basically, the biggest phantom tax on the environment, on your education, and your rights. Big L, posting it online, buddy.
Yeah, you know what? The big L in my day, well, that's a big one. Loser. Actually, that kind of works for you.
Okay, so Dr. Turley was talking about bow ties, beards, and being, when you're in crisis mode, right? And you're losing your religion, so to speak, here in the Democratic Party. Is this what the Democratic Party looks like now? Purple hair, weird glasses from the B-52s, and talking in like a 9-year-old? Is that really what they're grasping onto now for identity?
Yeah, it seems to be. That's actually that's a really good application of it. It seems to me it's the opposite, right? So if we're going back, if we're retraditionalizing, as it were, they're falling back on sort of their own absurd ideas. One of the most interesting things about like the death of a movement. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this all throughout the podcast. But sociologists have studied characteristics of what happens when a movement starts to die. And it's not just like losing membership, which we're already seeing with the Democrats. It's also literally being drained of ideas. There's a brain drain. There's no longer the intellectual fortitude to be able to continue to reawaken the movement to some kind of vibrancy. There's no lack of leadership. We'll be talking about that. Lack of attention. Nobody gives the movement any kind of attention anymore. And it just seems like all of those characteristics are being exemplified by the Democrats right now. So I think they're the classic sort of sociological case for a movement that is literally dying right before our very eyes.
Wow.
Here's another one. I have to ask you, who's advising these people and who's telling them what to do and how to relate to younger voters? Check this out. There you go. So now Rosa DeLauro is gangsta according to the Democrat Party.
It's a parody of repulsiveness. I mean, it's just it's so vile. I mean, who could possibly sit there and go, yeah, give me more of this?
And who's advising them? That person should be fired right away.
Right.
But this must be the effect of David Hogg now being one of their vice presidents at the DNC, right?
Ah,
Good
yeah,
point.
that guy, New Hampshire. But people, look, they don't know how to claw back the young voters, and they really believe that this is it. They've hired social media influencers to help them out with, CapCut and TikTok. All good strategies, except look what you're pushing. You're pushing a message that no longer works for Americans, and we saw that back in November 2024.
Right.
And they do have a real issue with leadership. It's at this point it's embarrassing, but really they don't know which way to go. They doubled down on woke for the last 8 years. They figured this was their direction. We're going to make sure that we tell everybody that we're going woke, and you people are racist, sexist, anti whatever. If you don't agree. The problem is they kept throwing those names out and hurling the insults out so much that they don't have any effect anymore. Moderates are saying we're embarrassed. They lost the country. They're going to lose more of the House. They're going to lose more of the Senate, and they're going to lose more local races if this keeps up. They don't know in which direction they're going. It's so bad that even the likes of Gavin Newsom and Andrew Svachim Jr., credit, of course, to the great Bob Grant, Cuomo, they're trying to distance themselves.
Yeah. Dr. Turley, I want to ask you, is this all an act by Democrats right now, or are they really like spiraling out of control? Because I wonder if they're just playing dumb and pandering so that Trump could just kind of be Trump and, piss off a couple of people, because Trump can do that. I wonder if this is all just an act by the Democrats to act crazy and radical and very lefty, or are we really seeing the kind of downfall of the Democratic Party as we know it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would go with the latter. I would go with the latter. We always need to bolster ourselves for the former, but no, I think what we're seeing is the last 4 years just more or less getting exposed. So if you think about it, the Democrats were on the wrong side of literally every issue. I like this article by Revolver that says they're basically caught in this 80-20 doom loop, And they always were. They were always there. Just look at what happened with our southern border. Look what happened with inflation. Look what happened with men and women's sports. They were always there. But now the problem is they're being forced to have to defend that while they're on the losing side. So you got Trump planting his flag on all these issues that have 80% support. And if you just rattle down the issues, just think which one would your typical Democrats support as well. And I'm talking about Democrat leadership. Which one would they support? Border security? Mass deportations? The total elimination of waste, fraud, and abuse from government? They can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse is how government's supposed to run. That's how they make their money, right? Reciprocal tariffs, would they defend that? The freezing of foreign aid? Energy independence? Banning trans athletes from female sports? Where in all those issues, where would Democrat leadership plant their flag with Trump? Nowhere.
No, and they've already rejected a lot of that, right? So just last
Exactly.
week, Democrats have voted against removing men from women's sports.
Exactly.
Just today, Chuck Schumer came out and said, "No, we're not going to be voting for this clean, continuing resolution bill that's going to allow our government to run and for military and essential workers to be paid." Right?
Even though it's the exact same bill that he voted for 3 months ago.
But again, Orange Man likes it, so it's all bad. And who'd have thought, Dr. Turley and Angie, who'd have thought by this time John Fetterman would have been the conscience of the Democrat Party at this point?
Yeah. Well, rhetorically, he still votes with Schumer 99% of the time. I think Fetterman's a fraud. He's in my area. He's in the Pennsylvania area. But right, exactly. The point is well taken. He recognizes how patently absurd the party has become because it's been taken over by lunatics. It's been taken over by the woke fringe, and the woke. They are proof positive. You cannot ultimately separate religion from politics. Politics is always going to be religious. It's always going to have some kind of ideology behind it, some kind of moral impetus behind it. Just the question is, do you have a good religion or a bad religion? They're giving us a horrible one, wokeness. And when you walk into a classroom and you see pride flags everywhere and BLM posters and so forth, that's religion. That is a metaphysical worldview that can't even remotely be, like scientifically proven. You can't put it in a test tube, and they're just proving themselves to be literally mullahs. They're ideological fundamentalists that are imposing this bizarre concoction of the sanctification of the victim together with declaring anyone who would offend the victim a heretic, and therefore worthy of being excommunicated, and hence cancel culture. And nobody wants it anymore. That's the thing. Wokeness has collapsed. Well, nobody wanted it in the first place, but I think we were all scared over the last 4 years to stick our necks out lest we end up losing our jobs.
Yeah, except Democrats in Congress are still toppling over each other to be more and more woke. Who can be a bigger victim than I? Right? And they're just trampling over themselves. So that doesn't go away.
And that's the loop. That's what the Revolver's talking about, that 80-20 doom loop. They just get more and more extreme.
But they do, but it works for them every bunch of years. This is why they keep going into that loop. What kind of victims can we find? Wasn't it Marcuse who said that when people grow out of the leftist or socialist Marxist type ideologies, the Marxist leaders have to find other people, other ingrates who will join in with them and do things, whether they find them from within or other groups that you can call them marginalized, or bring people in from other countries. And this is what the Democrats have been doing the last 20, 30 years. It's a pattern.
Yeah. That was his program, by the way, of repressive tolerance is what he called it, which is so fascinating, right? Talking about a square circle. Repressive tolerance. You tolerate the victim. The more victims you tolerate, the more you get to oppress the majority, because the majority the majority has set themselves up against these marginalized victims, these these communities at risk, or these vulnerable communities, as even Gavin Newsom will call them. And then they go and they appeal to these scientific studies that we find had USAID funds behind them, you know, to give the very results that liberal politicians needed to promote their policies. It's just, again, it's part of this bizarre loop, this bizarre liberal social loop that's getting uncovered more and more every day. And I don't know if they can recover. To me, it seems like in many ways, November 5th was our Berlin Wall moment, the implosion of the Berlin Wall. Once it fell, remember, communists stuck around in Poland for the next 10 years. They're still in Eastern Germany in the party called Die Linke, means the left. And Die Linke can be traced straight back to the
They're
Eastern
still
German.
around in mainstream politics over there in Germany. I mean, these people are trying to make the kid, give mealworms to kids at this point in the school districts. Yeah, they're the commies. Commies are mainstreamed in Western Europe nowadays.
Well, but my point is, it does take a while for it to unravel completely. But lo and behold, I mean, Poland up to fairly recently was the most conservative nation in Europe, barring Hungary, Viktor Orban's Hungary. The Law and Justice Party, Andrzej Duda, their president, very, very conservative fellow. So they worked it out, and we'll work it out. We'll get away from this leftist nonsense, and I think largely because the whole system has been exposed and gets exposed more and more each and every day. Certainly, young people are seeing it; they don't want it anymore. I just came across a poll: 60% of those under the age of 34 were all in on Trump and MAGA. So.
Again, this is because they don't know where they're going. There's no direction for this party. And what they do is double down on all the stupid things they've been doing the last 4 years that were only successful by default in the first place. Like, here's something that happened recently. They, like clockwork, there was that they've they're playing they're posting the same thing over and over again. Over the last 8 years, the mantra was people who follow Donald Trump are in a cult. It's a cult. Right. It's a cult. It's a cult. Unfortunately, cults are the ones which dress in coordinating or matching clothing. They hold little signs when they're when they're angry about things. They act out all the time. They listen to one leader who says, say the same thing over and over again, post the same thing over and over again, and act as if they're in a cult. This is a true cult.
Right.
Look at this.
What's so fascinating with this too, what they don't seem to get, again, it goes back to this whole Rosie Deloro, is that who it was?
Yep.
Again, I'll have to know the name.
The ranking Rizzler. Just call her the ranking Rizzler.
Ranking Rizzler. All right. That's what I'll tell my therapist for after I find one. But what they don't seem to get is we are living in an age of what's called techno-populism, which is really, really cool. We're seeing this especially with our Doge team. So what technology, particularly internet-based technologies, are doing is they're actually liberating more and more populations away from the old liberal industrialized order, most particularly the legacy media. So what we're doing now, and why independent content creators are they're not even the future. We are the media now, as Elon Musk likes to point out, is because we have access now to the same information, digitally access, as anyone at CNN does, as anyone at New York Times does. We have this as same access to the same information that anyone in legacy media has. So that means the legacy media no longer, like it did in the 19th, 20th century, can no longer monopolize information. Information has been radically decentralized and distributed to the masses. So what does that mean? Like we're doing right now, we get to fact check the fact checkers. We get to fact check those who claim to have a monopoly on the facts. And they've been found wanting time and time and time and time again. Remember, these are the same people who told us that it was a fact that Trump colluded with Russia to win 2016. And it was a fact that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. When in fact, it turned out to be the complete opposite. And we found that out. The internet broke that.
Yeah.
So we're living in a time where they still think Walter Cronkite is getting 60 million views a night. They still think that the population is dependent upon the legacy media for its information diet, when in point of fact, we all have immediate access to information in such a way that can fact check these fact checkers. So when they pull all these antics, all of a sudden, within literally 30 seconds of them posting something, boom, screenshots go up, and it's going viral on X, precisely the antics that they're attempting. They can't get away with it anymore. And I think that's literally a summary of the left can't meme. What we mean by that is they are not up with this techno-populist revolution that's
And they have
happening
no sense of
right
humor,
now.
by the way. No sense of humor. And you notice almost every meme they put up, it requires the use of a straw man. They have to try to paint everybody else by the same brush. The funny thing, again, the whole thing about the left trying to say the right's a cult, when, as you even see, the Trump administration itself is a full tent of a larger tent of different marketplaces of ideas, from the Gabbards and Kennedys of the world to the Vances of the world.
Right.
It's a mishmash. That's what Donald Trump was all along. He was a former Democrat. People don't get that. When they became a cult, that's it.
Yeah.
Then they all left. I'll give you a cult-like thing. Here you go. You talked about BLM and the pride flag and everything else. Those aren't really BLM flags and pride flags. You know how the left always says the right's dog whistling when some Trump person uses an okay symbol once in a while or something like that? That's not a dog whistle. They're just projecting the fact they dog whistle. The great Burgess Owens said in a show I produced that the left, the socialist, told black activists and gay activists, we're going to trade backing you up for backing us up. So you have to back socialism up. So when you see Joe Biden hanging those big pride flags way behind him, along with the American flags, what he's really telling you is, socialists, I have your back. That's what the flag represents. It doesn't necessarily represent the gay pride movement anymore, except for those hardcore gay pride people. When it's a regular politician doing it, they're telling you, socialists, I have your back. That's the dog whistle.
Yeah. I've heard the term bio-Leninism to explain that. Isn't that cool? Bio-Leninism. So identity politics is now the new Marxism when all's said and done. But it's the old Marxism, just in a new guise.
Yeah.
But all hope is not lost, Angie and Dr. Turley, for the Democrats, because they have a new savior. A new podcaster has hit the airwaves, if you will, or two of them. Check it out.
Hey, TikTok, it's Michelle Obama, and I'm here with my big brother, Craig.
Hey, everybody.
We're here because we're excited to announce the launch of our new podcast called IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson.
We started talking about this at the outset, why we're doing this show.
You know, post White House and writing the books and doing book tours, you know, speaking at leadership conferences, things you do as a coach, you realize that what we have, even in our lack of resources, you know, in our household growing up, we had people who would share their opinions.
Wow. Inspiring words. Inspiring.
Another word salad. I mean, at least she's a little bit more coherent, right?
Well, a little more than Kamala Harris, but I'd watch a Kamala Harris podcast simply for the entertainment value. This woman's boring. I'm sorry. Look, I know because we're here, you and me, Angie, they'll give anybody a podcast.
Listen, we're not even first ladies, and we are, we're at 10,000 views on our podcast. She got 24,000 views after touring the world and being the first lady. What is going on here? Dr. Turley, you were just saying earlier, legacy media is dead. Yeah. Now it's going to be like me and you media, where I speak directly to you from my laptop or my cell phone. I mean, is she just catching on now? Because you know what? Gavin Newsom also has just launched a podcast. And are they going to be doing exactly the same content? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's so odd. I mean, I think part of the reason why the right, for lack of a better term, because I do think our political realignment is moving away from left, right to more people versus political class. So that's how, like you mentioned earlier, how we can end up getting Vance together with RFK and Tulsi and so forth, and even Elon Musk, who admittedly voted for for Biden back in 2020. I just think that the new cyberspace world that's emerging. I kid you not, many scholars have talked about how cyberspace world is literally like the next stage of planetary development or evolution, however you want to phrase it. You've got your geosphere, then you've got your biosphere, but now we're getting what they call a noosphere, and it comes from the Greek word for mind, nous. And the noosphere is literally where the human mind now covers the globe in this cyber consciousness in ways we just never had before. So we can all be chatting with each other from all different parts of the globe, all interconnected by means of internet-based technologies, by means of the network society. But what it's doing is it's opening up the world to new possibilities that the old liberal, industrial, modern world just can't keep up with. So it seems to me that's where you get like your Rogans. That's where you get just X in general, where we get to talk about ideas that are incredibly exciting and they are cutting edge. And yes, they're conservative because we're seeing a reawakening of civilizationalism happening all over the world now that this one size fits all globalism, this liberal globalism is dissipating away under the weight of this techno populism. So I think that's kind of a theory I have. I don't think the left can meme. I don't think the left can do podcasts because the very frames of reference that they discuss end up looking they look so yesterday. They look so 1990s.
They're uncool now.
Combined with a bizarre wokeness, that's the only thing they have that's new, a bizarre wokeness that nobody wants anymore. So they just don't even have anything to really talk about that has the kind of a mass appeal that you would have in this cyberspace noosphere realm that I think the right has. The right has exactly the things that people want to talk about: nation, culture, custom, tradition, MMA, you name it. Manosphere, beards, and all that. Now it's crazy, it's weird. It's not regulated. It's going to go in all kinds of directions. But it's just something that the left just doesn't seem. The only thing they've got in the end is anti-Trump hatred. That's it.
Well, we had to create, remember, podcasts and public forums because all that was taken away from us. Traditional media wouldn't let us use the C word, remember? And we know which word we're talking about. We can't say it on this show because we'll get taken off. But honestly, it was created out of necessity. Right. Whereas this time around with Gavin Newsom creating his own podcast, Michelle Obama, it's almost as if they're being told you need to do this because guess what? We no longer have CBS. We no longer have ABC News. All that is exploding because Trump's just going to defund everything pretty much. And so now they're going into our space. I welcome that. Look, I love more public spaces. It's great material for prime roast, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we need liberals around for a few laughs, but it's true. They're pretty much a cult of annoying personality now. Speaking of annoying personalities, we haven't done a View video in a little while, and we do have to.
They're still on air.
I'm really going to need therapy after this.
No, I think you are because they talked with this Dylan Mulvaney person, I guess. I don't know what its pronouns are at this point. I do believe this is an annoying attention seeker that found a way to get a lot of clicks and a lot of TikTok views or whatever. So I guess at this point, it's a girl or something like that. Doesn't matter because the View was yammering on about trans men in women's sports. Again, I understand because they're idiots, but I don't see how, even after all this time, watching women get hurt at the hands of biological males, like the girl in the volleyball game, or watching women lose races, swimming races, weightlifting competitions to biological men, that they don't see a reason why these biological men, people are built like men, shouldn't be allowed in women's sports. So here's Whoopi Goldberg being trying to be intellectual and philosophical about the whole thing, which is always good for a laugh.
When you come in and you say, oh, these men, these are men,
Competing
against women. You're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything except be here. Have you seen female athletes? They know what they're doing. So I'm not sure what's going on or why this is an issue.
First off, that mohawk that Whoopi Goldberg has. Sorry, it was hot on Annabella Lewin. It is not hot on you. You're 109. What are you, Rosa DeLoreal, or Rosa DeLoreal from the Hood? Come on. Secondly, that awkward smile from Dylan Mulvaney. looks like she's like, I don't think I want to talk about this either. I want to talk about my book that's not selling.
Yeah, right.
But again, women. Serena Williams said it herself. Was it Serena Williams? Was one of the Williams sisters said on a talk show? I believe it was with Letterman, that she wouldn't want to play men. It's a different game. Men's games and women's games are different. Women need a professional outlet, and they should have a professional outlet or a college outlet that men cannot and should not interfere with.
Look, I mean, I played tennis in high school. Okay, my serve averaged 77 miles an hour. Guys, you're doing like 140. Okay, in your serve. You think I'm going to be able to like get that? No. I mean, and I also don't want to get punched in the face by a guy on TV. Can we just like stop that?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Boxing. I mean, that was a travesty when it came to the Olympics. That was absolutely horrid.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just abuse.
Again, what you're seeing there is, I mean, let's just be blunt. It is cultic. That is an imagination that has been completely infested with a radical ideology, and people see it. You know, this 80-20 doom loop we're talking about, it actually works itself out in real time, because what Whoopi is saying there literally is only supported by about 20% of people. Maybe
that
even
much.
Here we go.
Yeah, no, I'll based on this kind of model.
It makes sense.
The model is that wokeness has always, it's not today, it's always split the left and united the right. That's the calculus. And you take any woke issue, men and women's sports, CRT in the classroom, whatever it is. And you ask the left, do you support this? Half the left will generally do what Whoopi is doing. But the other half, the Bill Maher half, right, the Piers Morgan half, will say, no, we don't want to have anything to do with this. This is crazy. So that's what I mean by the 20% support, 25% support.
But
let me just finish the point. So it splits the left. That's key. But at the same time, if you ask the right, do you support what Whoopi just said? What would be your total? 0. 100% of the right would go, that is insane. So this is how Glenn Youngkin won Virginia. This is how Ron DeSantis turned, one of the ways he turned Angie's Florida from barely like 0.5% win in 2018 to what did he get? 20-30% margin win.
Exactly. Yes.
In 2022 is he pushed wokeness and forced the Democrat to defend woke issues, which split their base and united ours, brought a number of theirs over to our side, and boom, you have a new supermajority.
Well, I wanted to throw this at you, Dr. Turley, because at the 80-20 is absolutely correct. The problem we had during the late Obama years, during the Trump years, and during part of the Biden years was the algorithms on Facebook, on X, and what are the kids on these days? MySpace or something like that, right? The kids use MySpace these days, but they were skewed towards making that 20%, the woke, small woke population, look more popular than they really were. Yeah. And a lot of the left tried to govern by Twitter. I always called it governing by Twitter. They thought, hey, watching what these far lefties do on Twitter, it looks like the whole world's on Twitter, when it's really 1% of the 1% that are on Twitter are really that active.
Right. And keep in mind, too, during the Obama era, we had not gone woke quite yet. A lot of scholars trace it back to Trayvon Martin. So it did begin to happen in the Obama era, but back then it was still I mean, this is pre-gay marriage and everything. It was still, gay rights. That was about as woke as things got. It was women's rights, gay rights. The trans issue had not really bubbled up yet. It started to bubble up, ironically, during the Trump era, I think as part of a reaction to it.
Really?
And then it goes on steroids during BLM in the 2020 movement. Well, I would trace it back even more to the Me Too. Me Too started to bring in kind of the trans train kind of got hooked up to the Me Too movement. But you really don't see hardcore wokeness until post BLM. That's when all bets are off. That's when you saw the whole, the whole white fragility movement coming into all the human resources meetings. This is when the corporate boards just started cracking down, imposing this radical racist ideology on their companies. And then trans came in through that. And the key difference, it seems to me, is there's been some really interesting articles written on it. While gay marriage, right or wrong, it's irrelevant. While gay marriage became successful because it was able to say, look, we're two consenting adults. Who are we hurting? Answer nobody. Therefore, do it. Americans are very tolerant with our liberties. No problem. Therefore, do it. Trans come in trying to make the same argument while they're leaving behind, all these kids who've been transitioned surgically, or athletes who've gotten their noses broken by a spike from a trans athlete on the opposing volleyball team, or getting their heads beaten in by a trans boxer. All of a sudden you realize, wow, a lot of people are getting hurt here. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the trans movement collapsed, where the gay marriage movement was able to succeed.
Well, I have a quick question about that. I mean, with the reinsurgence of Andrew Cuomo and Harvey Weinstein, they're back in the news. I mean, these were the early days of the Me Too, and they were affected. Now they're making a comeback. Even Anthony Weiner, who is my old district of New York City, he's going to be running again. No, but do you think that whole wave is now going backwards into kind of the alpha male for Democrats?
That's a really good question. I'd have to think about that one. I don't know.
Alpha male is a relative term for Democrats, by the way.
Oh, they hate the term, but I like using it.
It's a good question. I don't know. Again, but even for that, see, when we do it, it forms a consensus. It invites men, women, everybody into the fold. It seems if they're going to do it with former Me Too violators, then they only end up, they might pick up with a few men. Most men don't go Democrat. They've lost men, I think, for the last 4 decades. So they're going to lose men. They might pick up a few, but they're going to lose more women, it seems to me. I mean, because obviously their opponent is just going to push their past discretion, shall we say, into the force. So I don't see how going back to those whose careers were destroyed by Me Too is in any way going to ingratiate them back into politics via the manosphere. Again, they may convince some men, but they're certainly not going to be convincing a single one more woman as a result of it.
The whole hashtag Me Too movement really perplexed me anyway. Also, all these women put on X or Twitter back then, hashtag Me Too, a whole thing all the way over there. The problem is, I grew up in the 70s as a kid, and I remember that the hashtag was called the pound sign back in the day. So what I was reading was pound me too, pound me too, pound me too. And I'm thinking, what's going on? I think you got rid of Al Franken for that.
Where do you find guys like this, Angie? Where do you find these guys?
He's the best. He's the best. I mean, this is why I tune in every week, because he just makes me pee in my pants.
Pound me too. There you go. Now I have learned something.
That's all I'm going to be able to see. Well, we'll see what happens with these races, with these reintroduced alpha men, right? Maybe they'll win their races this round because that's what the Democratic Party actually
although
needs.
I take umbrage with Anthony Weiner as an alpha man.
Oh, there we go.
What was his name? Stranger Danger?
Colin Danger. It's Colin Danger.
I think he's just a creep, or as Trump would call him, he's a perv.
But you know what? Looking back, we should have held those pictures instead of the Hunter Biden laptop, because New York City got stuck with de Blasio as a result of the Wiener scandal, the Wiener scandal, if you will. But that's another story. For that, we could do a whole show on that. I do have something for you before we close out, because it's now the annual WNBA players whining about not getting paid the same as the NBA players thing. Did you get to watch this on a recent podcast? This one woman, I forget her name. I'll grab that in a little bit. She was screeching she was screeching about possibly striking if women don't get the same pay, and the WNBA players don't get the same pay as the NBA players. Well, let's hear this first, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
We all did it. Yeah, the CBA is coming up. I can't wait. Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL. What does that mean? We deserve more. Of course. Everybody. I agree. Everybody. I agree with that. But we got to get paid the consequences. Damn, we got to get it up. Y'all got to do something. Y'all got to do something. But the women coming in, not this year, but next year. Because the ones coming this year will still be on the rookie contract again. Mm-hmm. The ones the year after, they're going to get more. They probably going to be making more than us. No, they are. They are. Yeah. I've been in the meetings. They are. I need to get in the. I need to get in the field. You need to come to the meetings. I gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing they don't give us. If y'all don't give us what we want, we sit out. That's a possibility.
So they're gonna sit out. Good, fine. I haven't seen a WNBA game in a long time. Actually, I have. I've seen one or two because I want to check out the Caitlin Clark hullabaloo. It's not as good of a game. I enjoyed the WNBA when it first came out, but it's for a long time it's been subsidized by the NBA. It's not that good of a sport anymore. And now we're just hearing a bunch of ingrates at this point screaming and screeching. Yeah, Caitlin Clark's getting all the attention, or we're not getting enough money. What do you guys think?
Get better agents. Okay, you're sitting there in front of all these soda cans. How much are you getting paid there? You got to do better endorsements. Ladies, you look good, right? You could sell product, right? Go there. Why don't you make more money there? Look, I'm not watching an NBA game, WNBA game, only because it's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not like women's tennis. You get all the screechings and the yelling and the moaning. I love that. I will do women's tennis any day. But women's basketball, I don't know. They're really manly.
But they're not getting the pay. Look, the NBA brings in all sorts of revenue. People watch the NBA. They flock from it's a global sport. The WNBA, again, I like the idea of female great college superstars having an outlet professionally. But if it's not making the money, as a matter of fact, it's hemorrhaging $40 million, right, a year around that every year on the average, and that's on a good year.
Didn't know that.
You can't get paid what the NBA players get paid. You just can't sit there on a league that's being subsidized by the NBA saying, oh, these guys are making $12 million a year. I should get $12 million a year.
Yeah, and this is another example of just plugging in females into something that traditionally men do and trying to make it all work, and I love it if it works, but in this case it's it's not just taking one sex and plugging it into another sex and having a brand new product. And I think that's what it is. If you and I feel the same way about females in politics. Everyone that I know that's a female going into politics, we've become so uber masculine because of it. We have to, right? You can't really inject femininity back, and if you do, it looks weakish, and it's a mess.
Are you transing, Angie? Is that it? Are you transing now?
Maybe.
I think
not at all.
I like what the comedian Bill Burr said. He said, "No one ever got COVID at a WNBA game."
I like that one.
So sparsely sat in. Talk about 6 feet. You're going to have like 20 feet distance there. Yeah,
I remember those days.
I mean, yeah, you guys are saying it perfectly. We all know this. This is capitalism 101. It's all about value. I love what George Gilder, the theorist, said about capitalism. He said capitalism, it always begins with a gift. Capitalism always begins with a gift, an investment. You always begin in a capitalist society by giving. And then profit is the measure of appreciation that people have for the gift. And socialism is the opposite. Socialism is about entitlement and taking. That's how it starts. It starts by taking. And when I hear these girls chat, I'm hearing more of a socialist mentality than a capitalist mentality. And unfortunately for them, I don't think it's going to end well for them.
No. And by the way, the best person who summed up the NBA was Seth MacFarlane with Family Guy. And we just have to watch this because this is the NBA in a nutshell.
And at the top of the second half, it's 16-9. Easton leads the scoring with 4.
And that's why she commands $7,000 a year. These gals sure do make it look difficult.
But is having this minor skill worth being so unattractive? That's for the fan to decide.
Yay!
There you go. That's for the fan to decide.
No one got COVID at the WNBA.
Where do you guys find this stuff, Chris?
Yeah, really.
It's like, is that stored in the back of your memory? Like, oh, let's play that clip.
Yep. Unfortunately, my head's filled with useless information. That's why I'm not a cool lawyer like Dr. Turley. That's why I'm producing podcasts.
Oh, we're all doing it, man. Well,
we're all doing it, man.
We're so
You're part of the noosphere. The noosphere.
The noosphere. We're going to be quoting you with all that. I think you just introduced some new lexicon, and I loved it.
That's
so we're going to be rolling that everywhere. Thank you so much, Dr. Turley, for joining us. And tell us about your book before we go. Plug it out.
My book, Fight. How Trump and the MAGA movement are changing the world. Yeah, you're right. This came out in the summer. And what I do is I show the reader how Trump and the MAGA movement are actually part of a much wider worldwide movement known as civilizational populism that's happening all over the world. And so what I do is I give you an inside scoop into how Trump and the MAGA movement are a distinctly American outworking of a much more global phenomenon, and why what's happening here is really just the beginning of something that's taking over the entire world. It's really cool.
It is. And you know what? I'm telling you, he's Nostradamus because he is predicting things. I mean, you're reading The Room perfectly. So definitely pick up his book. You can pick it up on Amazon. That's where I found it in other places. Or you could just make friends with Dr. Turley and he'll send you a signed copy.
Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Turley, it was an honor having you on this program over here, and it was great. Loved your stuff over the years. Hope to have you on again soon. Angie, again, thank you as always. We're going to be back with you next week, and check out Dr. Turley. Where's your YouTube channel again? Of course, it's on YouTube. But
right. Well, you have to go to this place called YouTube. Yeah, just punch in Dr. Steve Turley. You'll find it.
All right, guys. Thank you again for roasting with us. Episode 23. We are out.